Hello everyone, this is Dr. Nazempour. We are going to have another short video today, a continuation of episode Steps to Liberation. And the topic for today is, as always, is a very fascinating topic. I think this topic is very important because really all of us, there is no exception, we deal with this situation at least weekly, if it's not daily. And the reason we take things personally and how we do not take things personally. In interaction with other people, one of the major dilemmas that we have, misunderstanding, miscommunication. So anything we can say about it, of course, the way that we are interacting with other people doesn't flow the way it should flow. And it could be in a family setting, it could be, of course, in relationship. Most of the time, it can take place in family setting, including love relationship, relationship with friends. It could be definitely happening on the job and many other settings. So what happened majority of the time, as we all know that, we are in interaction with somebody, and that somebody, through maybe verbal communication, or maybe the action and reaction that they show us, we feel that we've been personally attacked. And that become, of course, the immediate sign of wounded emotion, an immediate sign of discomfort. And yes, if we don't go through the steps that we're going to go through and learn some of the techniques, we are going to react, and our reaction sometimes can be negative, and it can add to difficulties that we have with that person or group of people for that matter. So let's go through the reason that we take things personally, why we take things personally. Let's just say that we are in communication in a family setting, and the communication over a topic, a sensitive topic, and we both are having ideas and opinion of our own, and one person that we are communicating with, he or she, start making judgment about us, saying things or acting and behaving that we feel and we analyze and interpret that as a personal attack. An immediate feeling that comes to our mind and body, it's about feeling disrespected, discounted, ignored, rejected. And when we have those feelings, of course, it's going to follow with another feeling, which is a very, very major feeling. We feel being victimized. We are the victim. And then, of course, as we continue having that conversation and going through this dialogue, that, let's say, negative dialogue that we have with the other person, there are other things that is much more deeper in our mind and body, which comes out and become activated and become the reason that we take it personal. For example, wounded emotion that we might have recently, or the wounded emotion that is stored in subconscious mind, and that wounded emotion, it can come to the surface in the speed of the light and add it to the situation that we're dealing with, and it will definitely intensify that hurt feeling and definitely the feeling of victim thinking. And maybe there are other reasons that we can add into that list of the reasoning. If it's a miscommunication, misunderstanding. So majority of time, when we finish that discussion, hopefully come to some kind of resolution. So if we are reasonable people, we say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. It was a misunderstanding. And we go and elaborate and explain to the other person that why what I said, it was not exactly what I meant, or what I really you received it, or you understood it. So for that reason, of course, we want to make sure that we are not really going and following that miscommunication and lack of clarity, and making the reaction that is would be negative, and that negative reaction is going to intensify the dialogue and communication that we have with the other person. So keep those reasons, and they could be, we can add more reason that we take things personally. But let's just go to the next level. how we do not take things personally, which is a major, major way and solution. If we take things personally, and everybody say, well, and that's another interesting point that I want to make to you. A lot of people say, well, it's not about you. Why are you taking it personally? It's about them. Well, I mean, yes and no. Well, majority of the time, yes. Let's say that. But we want to really look at our part. That's the reason that I want to add this point that when that happens, the main thing that we need to do immediately, let's see that what I contributed to this dialogue, negative dialogue, which is ending up to becoming an argument. And for example, if you're in a family setting and you come home, you're tired and you're not feeling good, you had a bad day, and you have this discussion with your spouse, and it doesn't go right, and your spouse on the other side saying something that you take it personally, but you got to remember that if you are reacting negatively, part of it, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, is because you didn't have a good day, you're not feeling good about your day, and of course your reaction is going to be, of course, intensified in reaction to what he or she said to you. So that's the reason that sometimes we want to make sure that at the moment, right from the beginning, we pause. If it's a face-to-face interaction, we need to, from now, start practicing, which I hope that doesn't happen as often, but let's say just it will happen to all of us. That we're going to be in an interaction with somebody, and one of us is going to take it personally. Let's say when we take it personally, the main thing that we want to do, level one, I call it level one solution, is pause. Walk away if you need to, if you have to, and excuse yourself and walk away. And shortly, and of course, nicely. If you're on the phone, if you're in dialogue and through the text or email, that makes it a little more easier. You have much more time, and you can have that pause, and you can have that moment, and suppose in your mind and your emotion walk away and stop. And with that technique that we use, we give it a space and give us that chance of being more reasonable. And when we are having that opportunity to be reasonable about this in dialogue, so we're going to make sure that we are not going to that intensity through our reaction. And from that point, we can go back, and with that little time that we created, we're redirecting our thinking, we move away from negativism, we move away from the victim thinking. And of course, we're going to talk about it more, but we can expand our vision and broaden our perspective, and change that view that it's subconsciously guiding us to react harshly or become defensive or even go to a revengeful maybe kind of a mode. So that's the one major technique that we can use to not to take things personally, and at least stop it and slow it down to go to the higher level. Second level of how not to take things personally is we need to go and find the roots of it. It's a little more deeper. We can go deeper. And the roots of it is, of course, we need to look at our own insecurity. And where is the insecurity coming from? From our low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, lack of faith and belief in our own self. As we become more confident, as we become more certain about who we are, as we act as we talked about it before, based on our true self, so we're going to be much more calm, much more collective, and less defensive and reactive. So that's one of the things that we want to always remember that. And low self-confidence, which is going to create insecurity in us, you can link it to ego, which we all know about ego. I know it all, I know better than anybody else, or I'm better than anybody else. And of course, we are self-protective. And ego is, unfortunately, it's a fake, sense of being higher and being better. And an ego comes from self-protectiveness. And when we use and allow that sense of self-protectiveness come and supposedly guide us, then our reaction is not going to be positive. Now we want to protect. Now we want to defend. So we want to really look into that situation about how much of my ego is coming to help me, supposedly, wrongfully. And from there, of course, we can go to the level of expanding our vision, as we always, believe that it's all about narrow-mindedness, and it's all about how we can expand our vision in any situation. As you expand your vision and you broaden your perspective, we're going to have a less chance of becoming defensive and take things personally. And then from there, of course, we can link it to a sense of solitude, mindfulness, meditative mood, and of course, we can use some spiritual thinking. We can connect to the source of energy, connect to the universe, connect to your higher power, and then see it in a different way. We want to change our perspective. That's the goal. The goal is that we change our perspective. And sometimes we see that some of us, unfortunately, subconsciously, we think negative. We don't trust people in a general sense. We have issues of trusting other people. And we look at the life in a more of a negative way than positive way and dynamic way. As we always talk about, we need to be dynamic and proactive. But subconsciously sometimes, and that's something we need to take a look at, it become more self-informed and have self-awareness. So we can look at that aspect of our perspective and thinking that how negative I can be. And of course, if you're negative, if you're thinking negatively about people and you don't believe in them, and you believe that they have some bad intention, our reaction is going to be much more intensified. So these are the things that is going to be a little more deeper. And as we go deeper, we're going to find much more solution and more definitely universal and spiritual solution. And we're going to become calm and collective, and we're going to be happy about our own reaction. Yes, it's still, we're going to respond. Of course, if you need to respond, if you need to clarify, have some level of clarity with the other person about what he or she said to you, that's perfectly fine. We don't need to walk away. We need to just clarify, but again, in a calm manner, not in an aggressive and angry manner, and not to have that negative reaction, and not to think that other people have something, negative about you. Even if they have something negative, if they are negative also, if you see something that is a pattern, so that's a different thing that we can look at it. And of course, I'm going to make some suggestion as we continue. So with that deeper soul searching and finding the reason that why I'm acting the way I'm acting, and I don't want to take things personally. I don't want to go to that intensity. So those are the very much simple solution we can always use. And the bottom line is one thing, as we talked about it before. Have higher level of self-awareness. Be more in touch with yourself, and practice every day solitude, kindness, compassion. And yes, as we talk about it, go through this balancing sense of physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being. So when we follow through those guidelines and universal principles, when things happen and is not adjusted and balanced as we wanted, our reaction is going to be much more balanced and much more soothing. Now, I'm going to take you to another, level of solution-oriented, and that would be ultimate, I'm sure, the solution as I discovered it myself many, many years ago, when I, just like everybody else, was taking things personally, and I said, please, universe, God, whatever combination of forces out there, please help me to be able to find a system, create a system that I don't get hurt. And I created this system, I call it Law of the 90-10. Law of the 90-10 means that from the beginning, from the get-go, we should come to this understanding everybody has some wounded emotion, everybody is toxic, if I call it that, and everybody is acting partially based on the false self, based on the shadow personality. So ego, narcissistic personality, selfishness, all of that, manipulation, being supposedly manipulative in many situations that we might be involved in, all of that, it's not that we want to be like that, but it's part of, the false self. It's part of the shadow personality. So when you believe, not just you, but everybody else, they have this false self. So it means that when they are communicating with you, they are in interaction with you, their false self comes out and it starts, acting out, and it starts being judgmental, negative, and they might personally attack you. When you have that understanding, the intensity is going to go down. You're not going to be as, angry and frustrated. You're not going to take it personally. You're not going to say that this person has a bad intention, although very, very few people that have a bad intention to hurt you, but majority of people, they really don't know better than that because they are guided by, unfortunately, by false self, including ourselves. So one of the things we want to do, we want to definitely go ahead and look at our own false self. We want to, bring out our authentic self and true self. Let that true self and authentic self to guide us. So at least when you're in touch with your true self and authentic self, you're not going to have that tendency of being overreacting or being harsh and mean to other people. You can explain, you can set boundaries. Sometimes we need to set boundaries. So with that law of the 90-10, let's just go to a little more detail. Why we call it law of the 90-10? Nobody gets 100 point in our book. We give 10-point bonus to people who we love and who we are close to. That they can make mistake, they can say something or act maybe in a way that will be personally not positive towards us. So we give them 10-point bonus that they also, we even love them, but they can also make mistake. So we give them 10-point bonus point. So we are not going to get angry and frustrated. But again, nobody gets 100, so we start with 90. And then what happened when we see some situation that is not suiting and maybe is not going well between us and the other person, we deduct point. We don't drop people. We deduct. Unless the deduction is becoming high and higher, and it becoming a pattern, their behavior, their personal attacks, their poor judgment, they become higher and higher and become a pattern. Some from there, of course, we might consider leaving or separating and of course, moving away from that human being or that maybe group of people. But I don't recommend that we do it right away from the beginning, which majority of people did do that. That's a kind of a wrong tendency because it's all about unity and oneness. So we want to really make sure that we deduct, not drop. So from that angle, when we look at it, yes, if somebody is abusive, physically, emotionally, and otherwise, and they are doing unethical, immoral, illegal activities around you, which you're going to be affected by that, yes, you got to drop that person. You got to move away from that person. Not with animosity and anger and frustration and hatred and revenge and any of that. Because logically, you don't want to continue dealing with a toxic person or toxic group of people because of, again, what I mentioned. And you got to get to that level and then be fair and evaluate it in a right way. So with that law of the 90-10, you deduct, we don't drop, unless you come to the point that you really need to drop. So, and then from there, of course, the main thing is that we continue working on ourselves. We continue bringing our true self out. Let the true self to guide us. And when we have that true self guiding us, we're going to be much more calmer, much more collective, and less reactive. And of course, as we said it before, other people's ideas and opinion and reaction and action towards us doesn't have any power unless we react to it. When we react negatively and with anger and frustration, then it means that we allow it to affect us. So we have the power. So let's exercise the power and let's just make sure that we have hopefully a better relationship with other people, definitely with people that who we love, and don't let it go to that level that we are going to have more fight and arguments and more separation. Thank you for being with me, being with us. Looking forward to see you again. Have a wonderful and passionate life.